Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gord McCall. I'm the Artistic and Executive Director of the Lyric Theatre here in downtown Swift Current, Saskatchewan. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Lyric Digital Stage Write Out Loud number 13. It's going to be a very special show starring an amazing author and artist, Carol Rose Golden Eagle, with musical interlude by Eliza Doyle, one of our all-time favorite musicians, and introduced by a great person, host Andrea McCrimmon. So that's going to happen in just a few seconds. We hope you're all doing well out there. This is still an uncertain time. We get good weather and bad weather, and we get good news and bad news. So hang in there. We'll get through it. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's for sure. I want to take this opportunity to remind us that we all stand on Treaty 4 land here in Saskatchewan. This is the original lands of the Cree, the Ojibwe, the Saulteaux, the Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect and honor the treaties that were made on all territories, and we acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we are committed to move forward in partnership with Indigenous nations in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. We also stand in solidarity with all people who stand in opposition to oppression, lack of freedom of expression, and the violent suppression of free speech and basic human rights. We stand with members of the Black community, people of color, Indigenous peoples, 2S LGBTQ communities, people with disabilities, and all who experience oppressive marginalization and systemic racism and hatred, including injustice of this nature that occurs right here in our own country. It's now our opportunity to thank our wonderful sponsors for Lyric Digital Stage. They are the City of Swift Current, Sask Arts, the United Way, and the Kiwanis Club of Swift Current. Thank you one and all. We couldn't do it without you. Okay, sit back, relax, and enjoy. You're in for a special treat. I want to pass the proceedings now on to Andrea McCrimmon, our host for this evening. Take it away, Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea McCrimmon, and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's event on behalf of the Write Out Loud Committee. We're excited to present a reading by the exceptional author Carol Rose Golden Eagle with a great musical guest, Eliza Doyle. Carol Rose Golden Eagle is Cree and Dene with roots in Sandy Bay, Saskatchewan. She's an award-winning published novelist, poet, playwright, journalist, visual artist, and musician. Her works have been previously published using the surname Daniels, but now she chooses to use her traditional name. She's the author of the award-winning novel Bearskin Diary from 2015 and Bone Black in 2019. Her debut poetry volume, Heareth, was published in 2018 and was shortlisted for the 2019 Saskatchewan Book Awards. As a visual artist, Carol's work has been exhibited in art galleries across Saskatchewan and northern Canada. As a musician, Carol was featured in a CD of women's drum songs that was recently nominated for a Prairie Music Award. Before pursuing her art on a full-time basis, Carol worked as a journalist for more than 30 years in television and radio at APTN, CTV, and CBC. Carol was the first Indigenous woman to anchor a national broadcast in Canada, and she lives in Regina Beach, Saskatchewan. Carol Rose Golden Eagle is an important voice in Canadian literature. Her work upends the stereotype of Indigenous women as downtrodden victims. Carol's writing examines the cultural forces of racism, misogyny, and the indifference that allows violence towards Indigenous women and girls to seem inevitable and normal. Carol's characters are not victims, but they reflect the strong, proud, courageous, and resilient women she knows from her own life. Her latest novel, The Narrows of Fear, was released last fall, and Carol also has a collection of poetry entitled Essential Ingredients that's set to be released this fall by Inanna Publications. She's also working on a short story collection, Meandering Streams, that will be out next year. We're also happy to have Eliza Doyle performing for us tonight. As I'm sure you all know, Eliza is bright, feisty, and fierce. She's a troubadour of exceptional talent and vision, and a Juno and International Award-winning artist. Eliza's band features Paula McGuigan on upright bass, Liza Holder on guitar, Lucas Getz on pedal steel and drums, and together they've been described as sweet as honey and raw as hide. Her discography goes back to 2003, and since then she's recorded on 23 albums, toured Canada, Europe, and the UK extensively, and she's crafted her musicianship to rise in excellence as a leader in the province as a banjo player, performer, teacher, and songwriter. Most recently, Eliza has developed important community mentorship programming for Saskatchewan's underserved and remote communities, which garnered her a Sask Music Industry Achievement Award nomination in both 2020 and 2019. In 2020, Eliza won CBC's Top 40 Under 40 award, and she's operating her own nonprofit named CAMP to strengthen arts outreach in the province's schools and communities through artist training, teaching, and mentorship opportunities. Thank you to the Lyric Theatre's digital stage, and a big thank you to tonight's sponsor, the Writers' Union of Canada. Enjoy the show.
Fancy, which is the Cree word for hello. My name is Carol Rose Golden Eagle, Osawa Mikisewisqueo, and I am Cree and Dene, originally from northern Saskatchewan. I'm so happy that you invited me to be a part of this today. And I just want to introduce myself a little bit. I am a Saskatchewan author. My latest book is called Narrows of Fear, and I'll do a reading from that, as well as a bit of discussion about the premise of the storyline. Bone Black is another one of my novels, which I released last year, the publisher did. My first novel is Bearskin Diary, which won a national Indigenous Literary Award, and so I'm happy about that. And it was translated into the French language, and this one won a Saskatchewan Book Award 2 years ago. I also have a book of poetry, which has to do with the 1960s scoop up, and I have another book of poetry coming out in just a few months, a very short matter of time. And as part of that, because the second book of poetry, it's really lovely. It's a whole bunch of memories about how much I have truly loved being the mother to my 3 children. They're now grown and moved away from home and studying at university. And I have to do a bit of bragging here. My oldest son has not gotten a mark below 95% since he started. So I'm really proud of him, and my daughter, who's going to be a teacher, and my other son, who will be a pilot. So what I did too, this one is one that I published, and it's a cookbook called Essential Ingredients, which is the name of my new book of poetry that's coming out. And we had a lot of food memories when my kids were little, and even now, it's been a central part of our family and how we share. And anyway, so I'm really, really looking forward to that one. But in terms of my novel that was released in October, so not that long ago, Narrows of Fear, Wapawiko Chikanik is the Cree word for it. And people, they ask, well, what is your book about? And it's particularly funny when journalists ask me that question, because it's clear that they haven't read it or even maybe done research on it. But that's okay, because there are so many wonderful Canadian authors, so many wonderful Saskatchewan authors, that it's going to take some time to read all those books that are at the heart of Canadian literature. And so this one, The Narrows of Fear, was something a bit different for me. I decided that I was not going to have one main character, because a lot of times, and I teach writing workshops, a lot of times people will tell you, you must do this in terms of how to advance the story or the character or the scene. And there are no rules. There are some, I mean, you have to use the proper language and sentence structure, but in terms of how you want to structure your own story, you can be as creative as you want to be. So that's what I was trying with this one. I categorize it as it is talking about Indigenous feminism and how we need a return to the place of women in Indigenous communities, Indigenous societies, and decision making. And so we have these four wonderful characters. I totally love the elder, Nina, in this book. She is, I'd say about 75, 77, around that age group. And she has been through so much in her life and has all this wisdom and grace and kindness and does everything she can do to teach the younger generations why it's important to learn about our history, our culture, our traditions. And so she is a wonderful woman that you will want to meet in the Narrows of Fear. We also have three other characters. One of them is, I say, maybe mid-20s. Marianne is the youngest character who is lucky enough to have met Nina and start learning from her. And then we have Sandy, who is a character from my first novel. It's not a continuation. It sort of is, but not really. What happened with Bearskin Diaries, a lot of readers, they enjoyed reading it, but they said, you know, I really want to know more about her family, because there's a scene in the book where she meets her biological family for the first time, but that's not the storyline of Bearskin Diaries. So she met them, and it was a wonderful meeting, but we didn't get into the details of the characteristics of her family members and the background. And so that is included in here, along with her sister Charlene. So those are the four women that you will come to love when you read The Narrows of Fear. We also have elements of fake shamanism, and people will say, well, what does that mean? Well, that means when somebody, and you have to be very careful about this, somebody holds himself or herself out as a spiritual leader, a spiritual guide, somebody who you can trust implicitly. And that's not always the case. And I'll tell you a real life story. I remember, must have been about 5 years ago, I was reading a story, just a story from a paper in Ontario. And there was a woman who was teaching a course. Anybody could take it. If you wanted to learn to be an elder, you could go to her property and pay her, I think it was $1,000 for a week. And at the end of the week, you would get a certificate saying you are an elder. And that is absolutely not the way it works within our communities. Elders are people who have served the community for years and years and years and give of themselves. And you don't get it by the designation or the respect of being an elder by having a piece of paper. But the thing is, a lot of people who are non-Indigenous wouldn't know something like that. And so it's that kind of fake shamanism I'm talking about in here. I created an antagonist, and I figured if I'm going to have a bad guy, he's going to be rotten, and he is. Although he doesn't appear that way. You only find out about it as a reader, because the things he does in his private moments, because he thinks no one's watching. But the thing is, Spirit is always watching. And so at the end, you'll find out how that manifests. And anyway, so what I'm going to do is I will do a bit of a reading. John Wayne is our antagonist, and he is constantly going around, especially telling women, you are not allowed to do this. You are not allowed to do that or this. And always giving the rules to any woman he meets, really. And his reasoning for that is always, you're not allowed because you are a woman. It's 2021. It's time for all of us to stop thinking like that to stop talking like that. Indigenous women are awesome. We're smart, we're capable, and we can do anything. And anyway, that's what happened as part of the storyline in the novel. And I love, again, Nina, the elder, because as sweet as she is and as gentle as she is, she's also tough as nails. And so John Wayne, I have no idea why, but he tries to intimidate her. And that's where I'm going to start. John says you're not allowed to hold ceremonies if you are a woman. And where I'm going to start with this reading, the night before, Nina was leading a full moon ceremony, and there were men and women at the ceremony. And basically, it's a way, when the moon is out, when Grandmother Moon is out, it's a way to say thank you, Creator, for giving us all beauty in life, for our family, for our health, and for us to continue to move forward and learn. And so she's been teaching the women that she comes across, because she's an elder at a women's shelter as well. She's one of the counselors there. And she's been teaching them how to make drums. And John Wayne is one of those people who says you are not allowed to drum because you are a woman. And I love Nina because she will have none of it. And so the evening before, there was the full moon ceremony, and our 4 female characters were there, and still really inspired by what happened at that ceremony the night before. And we're in this scene where the next morning, having coffee on the deck, basically, as the women are gathering again and talking about how much they love going through the experience and learning about the culture, because so many of us have had that stripped as a result of residential school, as a result of the 1960s scoop up, as a result of the way babies were just put into the foster care system, even though it wasn't called the scoop up, it still happens today. So there has been a lot of disconnection with our ancestors, and the drum and the ceremony is one way that this group of women gathers strength and comes together and teaches other people, other women. So here we go. They're in the backyard, and I gotta figure out where to start. Yeah, so Sandy is, she's gonna go to the living room because the women are sitting out on the deck. Sandy heads to the living room, and she goes to get the drums. Nina allows the women to bring those drums home after the ceremony last night. Charlene carries their coffee outside, and she notices that her cousin Sandy's rhubarb is growing near the back wooden fence. And she makes a mental note to pick it later today because Charlene's just visiting at the time. Charlene lives up north, Sandy lives in the city of Regina, and Charlene's visiting. So Charlene makes a mental note to pick it later today, and she's going to turn it into sweet crumble dessert served with cream for tonight's dinner. The rhubarb stalks are perfect for picking. They're narrow and they haven't gone to seed yet. And she also notices all the beautiful colors of the dahlia flower, which grow in Saskatchewan's arid climate. Charlene smiles, realizing the petals are arranged the same way that a small child would glue pasta shells together and then paint the flower of pasta with a bright color. There are also majestic poppies that are in full bloom near the back gate that leads to the alley, and their petals are so thin that they're almost transparent. Charlene appreciates all of the flowers and plants in Sandy's garden because where she lives, the northern landscape, is so different. Her few moments of quiet gratitude are interrupted by song because Sandy is sounding the vocables that they learned just last night. Sandy says, "How did that one go again?" And Charlene remembers the melody. She says, and I'll grab my drum here for this, because she has a drum that she's holding because Sandy just went to get them. So Sandy says, "How did that go?" And then Charlene, she remembers, and she starts to sing. Well, hey, well, oh. Well, hey, well, hey, well, well, hey, well, hey, well, oh. And of course, Sandy is so thrilled that she starts to applaud because she remembers the song now after being reminded just a bit. And Charlene says, does that sound right? Well, of course it does. They're both still inspired by the ceremony, and she's trying to remember the melody, the rest of the words that go with that beautiful song called Grandmother Moon. And then Char starts to sing again. Sandy remembers the words. She remembers the moments from last night. And both women are singing so beautifully in the morning on the deck. In the night sky we honor you, Grandmother Moon, for you are the spirit of woman, well, hey, well, oh. And they keep singing and singing and singing because with so many drum songs, you don't have to only sing one verse. You can sing the same verse as many times as you want, as you know, as long as it's making you happy. So that's what they're doing. And Nina told them where that song came from an auntie who was an elder in Manitoba. Nina's Auntie Jean had a vision about that song and the drum. In Auntie Jean's vision, a group of grandmothers were singing that song while they were walking on a hilltop. The wind, it wasn't there that evening, and it was just near dusk. The sun was just slowly setting. There were no clouds in the sky other than the vision of hearing the grandmother's song. Auntie Jean, in the vision, was instructed to teach the song to other women and guide them to pick up the drum. She was told that eventually there needed to be as many women as there are leaves on the trees singing and drumming to return to balance. So they started singing again. Well, hey, well, oh. And they were just lost in the song. They didn't hear the front doorbell ringing, and they didn't realize that there was somebody at the front door. Whoever it was let themselves in through a gated wooden fence at the side of the house, which leads to the backyard. Nina and Marianne, the younger one, they startled the women who are lost in song, and they say, that is so beautiful, ladies. And Nina offers the compliment, but then she shrieks. Charlene is startled, and because she wasn't expecting Nina, so she's startled, and she grabs the nearest thing to throw, which is a crab apple, and it hits Nina's sandal, and then everybody starts to laugh. The women are still wearing the ribbon skirts that they wore at last night's ceremony. They were given to them by the elder Nina, and they said, we'll have to give these back to you. Nina said, no, they're a gift. Chances are good now that you've begun to learn, you're going to need them, because there will be many ceremonies where somebody expects you to wear a ribbon skirt. It makes Sandy think of all the friends and colleagues she has who never wear skirts, and it brings to mind a question that she wants to ask, but she figures she'll ask Nina later. Then I have to go a little further up because the women are just having a lovely time visiting, drinking coffee, eating bannock, talking about the night before. And then John Wayne shows up, and I thought I had marked that, but I didn't. So basically, I'll just tell you because I wrote it, so I obviously remember what happened. John Wayne shows up unexpectedly as well through the side gate, and the women are singing and talking and drumming, and the elder Nina is holding her drum. And John Wayne comes around the corner and he scowls, and he looks right at this beautiful elder and he says, women aren't supposed to drum. You're not even allowed to touch the drum. And at that point, Nina, like I said, she's in her 70s. She's feisty. She's beautiful. She's strong. She holds up her drum and she starts to play. There's so many different songs that she teaches all of the women that she meets. So that is a little bit of a reading from my novel, Narrows of Fear, and that's the latest one that came out. I am writing another novel. Hopefully it'll be done by the end of the year. It has to do with the Star people and the stories around the connection of Indigenous people, First Nations people, to the Star people who are spirit. And I have all sorts of ideas for it. It's been a weird year with COVID in terms of trying to get back into a routine, but I will do that. And I will also finish a third poetry manuscript that I started as well. And that one is called Stations of the Cross. And it has to do with just the church and its influence on our people. And it's kind of got dark content, but that's totally fine. So that's all I'm going to tell you for now. Please get out and support Saskatchewan authors, Canadian authors, and Canadian artists in general, because during this time in particular, the arts are what is going to feed your soul and make your heart happy. Thank you for having me today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Eliza Doyle, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys today and to be celebrating Carol Rose Golden Eagle and the Write Out Loud and the Lyric Theater. So I'm going to get right into it. My first song I'm going to play for you guys is called Fight the War, and it's about standing up for the things that you believe in and basically not backing down. Here we go. It's called Fight the War. 1, 2, 3, 4. Rough and gray, heading for the storm. You're glad to start. last 2 years on and off. And for those of you guys that don't know, Stanley Mission is about 5 hours north of Saskatoon. So you go to Saskatoon, cruise up to Prince Albert, cruise up to La Ronge, and then from there you take a road out and you hit Stanley Mission, and it's right on the edge of the Churchill River. It's a really beautiful place. I've been working on developing music programming for remote and underserved communities in Saskatchewan, and it's been going really, really excellent. And I miss the South. I think it's so great that we can be together, and Carol can be in Regina and I can be up here, and we can all be together virtually. That is one of the benefits of this day and age. So the next song I'm going to play for you is called Fussin' and Fighting. And it's kind of, again, it's about sticking up for what you believe in and saying what you need to say, and being truthful. And if the people around you don't like it, then they don't have to be around you. And that's okay. That's okay, because you're worth it. This is called Fussin' and Fighting. Going on here for this performance. I'm going to play you guys a little song on the guitar that will eventually make its way onto the next album I'm working on. Along with developing a music program here, I'm also working on a mobile recording studio. So that would be a mobile recording kind of bus or trailer, some kind of thing that would drive around Saskatchewan to remote and underserved communities, filled with like a songwriter, video tech, and audio tech. So we would make music videos and write songs with communities, all coming from a mobile recording studio. And I figured, what better place for me to record my next album? So keep your ears open for that. There's a lot of work to do with that. It's not really it's just a dream at the moment. So this song is called Missin' You, and it's about there's a common theme going on tonight, and it is about standing up for yourself, saying your own truths, doing what you feel is in your heart. And sometimes when you do that kind of stuff, people will miss you because you may not be in their lives the way you used to be. So this is called Missin' You. It's about that. dancing shoes and your red dress on. We've been staying out late, running wild all night, and I ain't been holding you tight. I've been missing you when you're I've been wishing that you'd slow right down. I've been wishing that you'd slow right down. I know you try real hard, but can't you see what these long nights are doing to me? I've been wishing that you'd slow right down. You went and built your home by the lonely tree. You went and built your home by the lonely tree. First you took my hand and set me free, then you blew away like an autumn breeze. And I've been missing you when you're gone. And I've been missing you when you're gone. Coming up to musical instruments, or I should say, it's kind of like musical chairs, musical instruments, because now I have a new instrument in my hand, the dobro. One of my favorite instruments, but one of the instruments I find the most difficult to write a song I sing on. I still have yet to write a song that I sing on the dobro. But I have started this little song. It's called the Dobro Ditty. And if any of you guys out there hear any lyrics or melodies to songs, like verses or subject content that you have in mind, please let me know. You can look me up. I'm super easy to find, Eliza Mary Doyle. Let me know, because maybe I'd really like to write a song on the dobro with lyrics that it just hasn't come yet. So anyways, enough about me and my problems. This is called the Dobro Ditty. I hope you enjoy it. There we go, the Dobro Ditty. Alright, this song we're about to play it's one of my favorites. It's an oldie, so I'm sure if anybody out there has heard me play before, I've definitely played this song. It's called San Francisco Bound, and it kind of has that vibe of like Girl on the Run. I wrote it when I first moved to Swift Current, actually. I got a teaching job, full-time teaching job, and I signed a mortgage about a house. And it was the summer before I was going to start all that living. And I met this band from San Francisco. And they were like, wow, your bands are playing so much fun. Move to San Francisco. Come and join our band and we can just play. And I was like, oh, what have I done with my life? I just got a teaching job and a house. Like, I can't go to San Francisco. And I was feeling a little bit like, woe is me. So this song is about just wanting to run away, I guess, from everything, all your responsibilities. But just to let you know, I'm happy when I'm in one place and I'm happy when I'm on the go. So that's all good. So this is called San Francisco Bound. Here we go. I'd be San Francisco bound if I could find the time. I got children at my feet, I got laundry on the line, and I'm dreaming of gold. I got my very own secret, no one will ever know. I'm gonna catch the next train south and take it on down to you. Grab my money from the piggy bank, go see what we could do. I'll be a girl on the run. Just jump in from train to train and following the sun. I'd be Cape Campground bound if I could have my way. But the days are getting shorter and winter's here to stay. And I'm dreaming of gold. I got my very own secret, no one will ever know. I'm gonna sell my wedding ring and run to Tennessee, back to the cotton fields, back to the old oak trees. I'll be a girl on the run. Just jump in from train to train and following the sun. I'm running back to Saskatchewan, where my life makes sense. No more jumping on the train, no more sitting on the fence. No more girl on the run. No more jumping from train to train and following the sun. No more girl on the run. No more girl on the run. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed our time here today. Made me dust off a few of my instruments I haven't played, and I just can't wait to get back into the Lyric Theater to play shows. I miss all of you, and congratulations for you guys being able to hear the wonderful Carol Rose Golden Eagle tonight. And I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy. I'll see you later. Bye.
Hey, my name is Carol Rose Golden Eagle, Osawa Mikisew, and I am Cree and Dene with roots in northern Saskatchewan. I'm so happy that I was invited here today, and I hope that you are enjoying this series with the Lyric Theater. In terms of my work as an author, I'll just introduce you to my first novel, which is Bear Skin Diary, and it's a story about the 1960s scoop up and how it affected the fictional character of Sandy and how she found her way back to our Indigenous culture and roots and traditions. It won a National Indigenous Literary Award. It was also translated into the French language, which won a Saskatchewan Book Award a couple of years ago. Also, with the 1960 scoop, I did write a manuscript of poetry called Hirite, and it is, there's a lot of dark stories in this book of poetry, but it always ends up light, because I think that's the way it should be when you're growing and you're taking some type of journey. So that is my book of poetry. I have another book of poetry coming out later this year in a couple of months, and I'm looking forward to that as well. With that book of poetry, it's called Essential Ingredients. So I put together this cookbook, and it's our original family recipes, because food preparation and sitting around the table, there's my daughter, I got them to put photos of my kids cooking. And anyway, so I have that one. I'm going to count it as one of my books. I have recently released another book. It's a novel called Wapawiko Chikanik, The Narrows of Fear, and it has to do with embracing Indigenous feminism and women in our First Nations and Métis communities, finding their rightful place in their communities, in society, in anywhere, in terms of business and politics. No longer allowed to be excluded because somebody tells you that you're not allowed to do something because you are a woman. That is never acceptable. This is 2021, and women, Indigenous women in particular, are awesome, and we can do anything. The other novel that I have is called Bone Black, and that's the one I'm going to read to you, or read from tonight. And people always ask, when I release a novel, when the publisher releases the novel, what is it about? So Bone Black it's a very dark story. I wanted to, as a writer, experiment with elements of the supernatural. I wanted to experiment with violence. I wanted to experiment with the dark corners of the human psyche and how you can move beyond that. And I hope when you read it, you say that my main character, Ren, has moved beyond that. So Bone Black came about because of the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I'm sure you remember that from a couple of years ago. It was heartbreaking. Women right across the country were giving their story about what happened to their daughter, to their niece, to their granddaughter, and the despair that was in the voices of so many of those family members was heartbreaking. It just seemed like wherever they turned, there was really no answer or no resolution. And just as someone watching the news or reading the news, it really bothered me. And I thought, people who are in an official capacity, and I'll talk, I guess, about the police in this regard, and not responding to somebody's disappearance or not properly investigating a murder. And one very important case in Canada is Helen Betty Osborne from the Paw, Manitoba. I'm sure many of you remember that case. I think it was in the 1970s. I should have made a note of the date, but a young Cree woman was brutally raped and murdered, and her case wasn't even looked at for decades. And that's the kind of thing that still happens in Canada today in terms of the crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women. And so I wanted to write something about that, but it also goes further because I know someone personally whose daughter was murdered. And this gentleman he's a kind, gentle soul. Years ago, he was an alcoholic, up drinking. He's been sober for a very long time. And he was saying to me, after my daughter died, if I had still been drinking, I would have got my shotgun and I would have went out and hunted him down. But now that I'm sober, I have to find other ways to forgive and move forward. And I thought, I bet you that is the response that a lot of people have, that if they could take matters into their own hands, because if the police aren't going to investigate, then that is what they want to do, and that is exactly what my main character in Bone Black does. Ren is a twin, and she lives right in the valley here in southern Saskatchewan, and she has a twin sister who happens to live in Calgary at the moment. She's a lawyer, and her twin sister Raven is coming to visit her for the first time since Ren moved back into the family farmhouse, and they're both just really looking forward to spending the time together because they're so close. And anyway, they're happy. They meet again after not seeing each other for maybe 6 months or whatever happens to be the case. And Ren is so thrilled. She recently got married. Her sister is home. And she found out that she's pregnant, which is wonderful news for anybody. So she is sort of preparing for being a mom because it's something she's always wanted to do. And sadly, and this happens in real life too, she had a miscarriage one night in the middle of the night. And she was so distraught that she basically kind of went into a depression almost. So thankfully her sister Raven was with her because her husband had to go away on a business trip, and it was good that Ren was not alone during that time. So Raven was doing her best to try to comfort her twin sister. And one of the things she said is, you need to get out of the house. You can't just be in the house all the time. So let's go out for a walk. So they did a lot of walking, and then there was some event down at the local pub in the small town where Ren lives. And Raven said they have a wing special on tonight. Everybody loves wings, and so let's go down there and just have some wings and see some people and just change the scenery from where we are. And so they do that. Ren allows herself to be talked into going down there and going into the public area, and they're making fun of all sorts of people because it's redneck night, so people are dressed funny. They're wearing overalls and flannel plaid shirts and all sorts of things like that. So they're getting ready to order their food. And Ren says, I'm going to go to the washroom because, we do that before we eat our dinner. So that's where I'll start. Ren leaves the table and she asks her sister Raven, do you want me to get anything for you when I make my way back here? No, nothing. That's okay. I'll just sit and watch everyone, Raven shouts in response. As Ren scurries away, Raven takes another sip of a glass of wine in front of her, and she's startled when she hears a man whispering in her ear, and he says, nice bandana, want to see my banana? Who says something like that? What a comment to utter to a lady is the only thing that Raven can think of, and her instinct is to turn and give the intruder a hard verbal lashing and maybe even slap him across the face. Raven turns to the voice to make her disapproval clear that she does not like what he said. But then she changes her mind immediately because the fellow standing right next to her is incredibly handsome. He looks at her and he says, I am really sorry about that cheesy line I just said, but it is redneck night after all. And then the man introduces himself. His name is Lance. Seriously, though, he says to Raven, you just won me $20 because you did not slap me across the face. My friend at the other table told me he would. And so we made a $20 bet. Thank you for making him the loser. Raven laughs, and she says, you know, you almost did get hit in the face, but there are too many witnesses here in the bar tonight, and besides, I don't want to get thrown out. Well, it's nice to be out here, out in the valley, instead of being in the city, especially in the summer, and everybody is so friendly. And then he tells Raven that his job is to deliver furniture at one of the larger stores in the city. As Lance and Raven continue to chat, it is not his words that grab Raven's attention. It's his low-cut wife beater. The white undershirt fits him just a little too tight, and it shows off his muscular chest and arms. He reminds her of a young Richard Gere. "You want to smoke?" Lance pulls a worn silver cigarette case from his back pocket. He says it keeps the smokes from getting squished. It used to belong to my dad. "I'm going to go outside for a few minutes," he tells her, because the band isn't playing anyway right now. And I'll just go out there and light up. That's when Raven says, "Actually, I think I'll come out too. Hardly anybody smokes anymore, and it's more interesting to have company than just light up and stand outside all by yourself. Besides, my sister, she's in the washroom right now." Raven has been craving a cigarette all night long. She is not allowed to smoke in the farmhouse where Wren lives, and she's not comfortable standing outside by herself, especially at night in the dark. In the city, she smokes in her own apartment, usually on the balcony, but there are all sorts of city lights there. Raven realizes how much she appreciates the stillness of the valley, though. It is beautiful, and it brings her comfort. So she's agreed she's going to go outside with the man she met named Lance. She grabs her purse from the back of the chair, but she leaves her sweater there because the air is warm outside tonight, so she doesn't need it. No one notices as Raven walks out behind Lance towards the exit. He's the handsome stranger she's just met. Everyone's attention by now has turned to an arm wrestling competition that has just started up. And that is the last time we see Raven. And the story goes from there. Wren is devastated that her sister's disappearance. The police don't investigate because she left a bar with somebody that she had just met, and so they insinuated that, maybe she went voluntarily. And the story twists and turns from there, because what happens is Wren kind of snaps, and she decides, if no one's going to investigate my sister's death, any man who is unkind to Indigenous women, either in the past or today, is going to find out that the same thing could happen to them in terms of going missing and not leaving a trace. And so that is the premise of Bone Black. A lot of people totally love the ending, and I'm happy about that. So that's my one of the other novels I have, which I hope you will pick up at a local independent bookstore. Okay, so I will get back to what I do and hopefully write another book of poetry, another novel. I just finished a book of short stories. So I will just continue being who I am, which is a storyteller from Saskatchewan. So yes, please support Saskatchewan artists, Canadian artists, and thank you again for inviting me to this event.